am back and I am reading today. We are still in Genesis. And so I'm going to be reading Genesis 16 through 21 today. That's about 6 chapters, 5 chapters. Um, yeah, so I got a lot of reading to do. So when we left off, God was making this covenant or entering into a covenant with Abram, saying that Abram would have a child, and this child from the child would be, many descendants. And so now we're going to go into chapter 16, and this is where we find out that Sarai and Abram are trying to take this into their matters into their own hands, and it just goes to the fact that as human beings, when somebody tells us something that they're going to do something, we feel like we need to rush and get it done on our own. And so they did this. God gave them a promise. And so because their faith is not completely in God, as it should be, they decide that they need to intervene and that God needs their help, which is not true. God don't need our help. And so we're going to start reading. So now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. So remember, God said that he would have an heir, that the servant who was in his household would not inherit all that he has, but that his own um his own child would be the heir of promise to him. And she had an Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. So if we go back, we remember that Abram and Sarai went through Egypt, and Pharaoh had taken Sarai because they were telling Pharaoh that Sarai was Abram's sister. Abram told Sarai to tell everywhere that they went to tell the people that she was his sister so they wouldn't kill him. And so he did. I mean, that's what she did. And so, one can assume that this Egyptian servant that she had came from um, when they left, well, when they basically got put out of Egypt, when they lied about it. And the Lord told them to let that woman go, that that woman is married. And you can't be with them. So Sarai said to Abram, "See now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go into my maid. Perhaps I shall obtain children by her." And Abram heeded the voice of Sarai. Then Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt years in the land of Canaan. So, some time had passed, and the baby had not come. They were getting old. Sarai was old. Um, Abram was old, and so they trying to figure out when this baby gonna come because they getting up to close to being 100. And so Sarai told Hagar that she was gonna conceive. Um, no, she told her husband Abram that I'm finna give you my maid servant. Go and have sex with her so we can conceive, and I have this baby through her like a surrogacy. So being the man, instead of him saying no, we're gonna trust in God, he said, okay, let's get this going. So they had sex, and she got pregnant apparently on the first try. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress came to spies in her eyes. So after Hagar gets pregnant, Sarah has a problem with Hagar, and she don't like her no more, because apparently Hagar was this young girl, and she was very beautiful, and she was, she felt like because she was pregnant with this wealthy Abram's child that this made her better than Sarai. So then we go to chapter verse 5. Then Sarai said to Abram, "My wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace. And when she saw that she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. The Lord judged between me and you." So Hagar is really, messing with Sarai, saying that basically, I have a baby, you don't. So Abram said to Sarai, indeed your maid is in your hand. So now, even though, Abram decided that he was going to have sex with her and get pregnant, and there's tension in the house between his wife and this woman that he's impregnating, he's like, well, that's your maid servant. Yes, I knocked her up, but you do what you want to do with her. I ain't got nothing to do with it. So Abram said to Sarai, indeed your maid is in your hand. Do to her as you please. And when Sarai dealt harshly with her, she fled from her presence. So Sarai was actually very mean to Hagar, even though, Hagar, I guess, was picking with Sarai. And so Sarai took off running. While she was pregnant, she ran into the wilderness um, to get away from Sarai. Now the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from and where are you going? So the Lord was not caught off guard by this. And because he's always making sure that his plans are going into effect, he saw that Hagar was being mistreated. And many believe that this um, this individual who she was able to have a conversation with, this angel of the Lord, was actually Jesus pre-incarnate. And so, because nobody had seen the face of God, um, there's a Trinity, there's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, that Jesus was the angel of the Lord who was speaking to her as the Lord's representative. And so the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself to her under her hand. Then the angel of the Lord said to her, I will multiply your descendants exceedingly, so that they shall not be counted for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. He shall be a wild man. His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And so the angel of the Lord told Hagar, go back to the house where you came from. Your son is going to be a great man. He's going to be full of descendants. He's going to have just as many descendants as, the promised child, who was Isaac. And basically he was like, I'm with her. And so we know that Ishmael is a representation of the Arabs in Islam. And so Isaac, which was the promised child who was supposed to come from Sarai and Abram, is representation of the Jews of Israel. And so there's a clash between the two, which started over 400 years ago when Abram decided that he was going to listen to his wife and have sex with the maid and bring this division. So then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, you are the God who sees. And this is where we get El Rohi from, the God who sees. For she said, have I also here seen him who sees me? Therefore the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. Observe, it is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. So keep in mind that this is not the promised time. This is not the promised child. So the Lord still is up telling them that, I made this covenant with you. You are going to have a child with your wife. Now, he already has his child when he's 86. This child is Ishmael. The Lord still is telling him, I have promised you a child from your wife. So we'll see that the promised child does not come for a very long time. So now we're in chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me and be blameless. Walk before me and be blameless. And I will make my covenant between me and you and will multiply you exceedingly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, Behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. So the Lord is constantly reaffirming his covenant with Abram, even though Abram has not seen any manifestation of this. Sarai is not pregnant. She's still not pregnant. He's 99 years old, and they don't have a child together. So the Lord is, he's appearing again, um, and it's uh, capital Lord, which means that this is another um, representation of Jesus representing God in human form. And so they're having this conversation. Abram fell on his face and talked with God. And no longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. So this is when the Lord changes Abram's name from Abram to Abraham, which is the father of many nations. And we know just from the Bible that names are very important. Names mean things because you always call in somebody by their name. They are then becoming the person who the name is representing. So Abram's name originally meant the father of many. When the Lord changed his name to Abraham, it became the father of many nations. Now, keep in mind that he still does not have this child. He don't have a bunch of children. He wasn't the father of many, and now that his name is changed, he is not the father of many nations. Right? Because yes, he has the child with Ishmael, but that's a single child, right? So it almost seems like, you know, the Lord know what's coming, but he's adding on to this promise. And, I can see Abraham like, well, Lord, I still don't have any children yet. So how am I going to be the father of many nations? Even though the Lord has spoken to him and told him, has confirmed this, they have entered into the covenant, all this is taking place. So I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you. The kings shall come from you, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your descendants after you. Also, I will give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, and so the Lord is, training him. This is your name now. You are no longer Abram, you are Abraham. So when people say it, call him by his name, Abraham, they are confirming as well that he is the father of many nations. And God said to Abraham, as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you. Throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with money from any foreigner who is not your descendant. So the Lord is saying, okay, so this is another way that you are going to keep the covenant is going to be real between us. You're going to have to get circumcised. Every child who is born on the 8th day, they must be circumcised because that is confirmation of the covenant between me and you. Now, we still get circumcisions today, but this is the first, sign of the covenant to Abraham back then. A circumcision today does not mean that you are a child of God. The way that you become a child of God and be in covenant with God now is when you accept him by faith, Jesus Christ by faith. But back then, his promise to Abraham would be through the sign that all of his maidservants, males, everybody had to, including him, had to go and get circumcised. All right, so it's here in chapter 17. He who is born in your house and he who is brought with your money must be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. So the flesh as in the foreskin being removed is cutting in the covenant. You know, when Jesus came and he died, his blood that was shed was the new covenant cut for in the New Testament. But back then, the covenant was cut in the foreskin of a circumcision. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. So if you didn't back then, when he entered into this covenant and promise with Abraham this way, he said that if the person did not have circumcision performed, they were in violation of the covenant. There was no covenant. Then God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her and also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be from her. So, you know, he changed both their names. He changed her name to Sarah from Sarai, which means mother of nations. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed. So Abraham laughed. We'll see later that Sarah laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Then God said, no, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly, and shall beget 12 princes. And I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this set time next year. Then he finished talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So the Lord is still telling him, no, I know what I said. My promise, the promised child, is going to come from you and Sarah. So Abraham took Ishmael his son, all who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very same day. So he didn't waste any time. He was very obedient to God, and he did it quickly. By this time, Ishmael is older than 8 years old, right? Because he's Abraham is almost 100 or 199, and Ishmael was born when he was 86. So these are grown men and older kids who are in, you know, anybody that's 8 years, 8 days or older is getting circumcised on this same day. And if we remember, when he went in to rescue Lot from the kings who were in the war and took Lot, he had like 300 and I think it was 18 men who he got together in his camp to go fight. So that is a lot of blood being shed on that day. Um, let's see. As God has said, so and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very same day as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13. So yes, he was older when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very same day, Abraham was circumcised, and his son Ishmael, and all the men of his house, born in the house of or bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. All right, chapter 18. Then the Lord appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre as he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes, and this is the same Lord, capital Lord, where it is believed that this is Jesus before he came to the Virgin Mary and became a human. um, as we was sitting at the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the ground and said, my Lord, if I have now found favor in your sight, do not pass on by your servant. Please let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will bring a morsel of bread that you may refresh your hearts. After that, you may pass by, inasmuch as you have come to your servant. So Abraham was able to recognize that these were important men who came. They said, "Do as you have said." So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, "Quickly make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes." And Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and good calf, gave it to a young man, and he hastened to prepare it. So he took butter and milk and a calf, which he had prepared, and set it before them. And they stood by them under the tree as they ate. Then they said to him, "Where is Sarah your wife?" So he said, "Here in the tent." And he said, "I will certainly return to you according to the time of life. And behold, Sarah your wife shall have a son." So these men, which were, angels, they came to confirm that Sarah was going to, conceive soon. And they were going to come back. Now they served two purposes. You'll see this in the next chapter. But the first one was to come and confirm the promise of the Lord. Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. So the one who spoke, they asked where was Sarah. Sarah was in the tent. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. So Sarah was probably going through menopause or something, dried up, not able to conceive. But we as we continue to read, we see that she does get pregnant in her old age, which is why I don't understand why after 36 they consider any pregnancy geriatric when Sarah had a baby at almost 100 years old. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, "After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also?" So she laughed, and this is a joke, like, why would I get pregnant now, and how is he gonna make this happen, because he old too. And the Lord said to Abram, "Why did Sarah laugh?" So this is the capital Lord, which is Jesus. And Jesus, because she said she laughed within herself. But the Lord, because he know everything, he asks, "Why did she laugh?" Even though nobody could hear it, he knew that she did it because he is all knowing. And the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh, saying, 'Shall I surely bear a child since I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Capital Lord. "At the appointed time, I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son." So he like, "Look, y'all act like I don't know what I'm doing and what I said. I'm gonna come back, and when I come back, she gonna be to have this son." But Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh, for she was afraid." So we see that Sarah and Abraham, even though Abraham was a friend to God, we'll find out that the Lord says that he is a prophet and whatnot. They were not perfect people. Like, they lied, they were misleading. Um, they were not perfect, but the Lord was still on their side, and He still um, confirmed His covenant with them and His promise with them, even though they were not the example of people who were high in integrity and character all the time. Um, but Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh, for she was afraid." And he said, "No, but you did laugh. You did laugh." Then the men rose from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to send them on the way. And the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him." So Jesus, which is one of the three men who came, so two of them are going to go on to Sodom. This The Lord is going to stay and talk and tell Abraham what the plan is, what's going to happen now. For I have known the earth. Wait a minute. For I have known him in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, "Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it, that has come to me, and if not, I will know. So he's saying, there's some people in Sodom and Gomorrah who are crying out to him because of the wickedness that is going on, and he came down basically to handle it. Then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom. But Abraham still stood before the Lord, and Abraham came near and said, "Would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked?" So he's saying, I know that you're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, but if there is righteous people there, are you going to destroy the righteous people along with the wicked people? Suppose there were 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare for 50 righteous that were in it? So now he starts pleading for the Lord to spare the righteous people. He's been an intercessor for them. Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? So he telling the Lord, Lord, you are the judge. You would cause everybody to suffer. That's not what you do, basically. And so the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. So the Lord replies to him, if I can find 50 people, if there's 50 righteous people, then I won't burn the place down. Then Abram answered and said, indeed, now I, who am but dust and ashes, have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose there were 5 less than the 50 righteous. Would you destroy all the city for the lack of 5? So he said, and this is the Lord saying, if I find there 45, I will not destroy it. So now Abraham is just increasing in number, asking the Lord, would you burn it down if there's 45 righteous people? Lord is like, no, if there's 45 righteous people, I will not burn the place down. So he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. Wait, and he spoke to him yet again and said, suppose there should be 40 found there. So he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 should be found there. So he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, indeed, now I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 should be found there. So he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak but once more. Suppose 10 should be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. So the Lord went his way as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So Abraham goes through these numbers and he stops at 10 people. And the Lord is like, nope, if I find 10 people, which, the Lord already knew who was there because he's the Lord. And so he was like, no, I won't, Abraham. But the Lord already knew that it wasn't 10 in there. Okay. So now we're in chapter 19. Now the 2 angels came to Sodom. Remember, there were 3 came to Abraham. Uh, the Lord stayed. The other 2 went on, right? So these were angels, came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. Now remember, Sodom and Lot and his uncle Abraham, now Abraham, had so many people and herdsmen that they couldn't get along. The herdsmen was going at it with each other. It was too small of a place for them. So Lot went his way, and Abraham went another way. Well, Lot did not move into Sodom. Somehow he ended up in Sodom, and I guess he was like a judge. He sat at the gate of Sodom and was trying to, I guess, judge the people or whatever. And so when Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face toward the ground. So he recognized that these men were important because he bowed his face to the ground. And he said, here now, my lords, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night. And so he's telling these men, come to my house, spend the night, and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way. And they said, no, but we will spend the night in the open square. So they like, no, we don't need to go to your house. We're gonna stay out here. But he insisted strongly, so they turned into him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread as they ate, and they ate. Now before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house, and they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them carnally. And so we all, you probably heard the story of these young men and old men wanting to have sex with these men, which is the first look at homosexuality in the Bible. Um, and so they wanted to gang rape the two angels, which they didn't know who the men were, but Lot did. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind him, and we noticed that Lot is not living in a tent because he had a door to shut. Um, and said, please, my brethren. So he's trying to plead with them, which, kind of leads me to believe that maybe he got closer to Sodom, and I kind of watched the video commentary about it, but he felt like he could help these people and, stop them from the wickedness that's going on in there. But apparently it didn't work. Do, please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. So he's telling them that what they're trying to do is wicked. See now, I have two daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof. So he's ready to set his daughters out to be gang raped by this slew of men, young and old. Apparently, it's a whole lot of them. And he's like, no, you will not have these two men take my daughters. They're virgins. They ain't been touched by a man. So the men, um, you may do to them you please. Only do not do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof. And they said, stand back. Then they said, this one came in to stay here, and he keeps acting like as a judge. So they're telling, Job to get back. Basically, you came here trying to tell us what to do, but we're gonna do what we want to do. Now we will deal worse with you than with the men. So they told Lot, stand back, or we're gonna come in and we're gonna rape you and do worse to you as we doing to these men. So they pressed hard against the man Lot and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot back into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. So the angels pulled Lot back because the people was finna pull him out. These men was finna pull him out and rape him and beat him up. But the angels grabbed Lot back and struck all these men, young and old, these kids and adults who were trying to have sex with him, struck him with blindness, so they couldn't find nobody but each other. So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws who had married his daughters and said, get up, get out of the place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But to his son in laws, he seemed to be joking. So nobody took Lot serious. He was acting like a judge, but nobody took him serious. Not even his son in laws. And so it said that he had daughters who have not known a man, which meant that they hadn't had sex. So apparently, these son in laws were they hadn't got married yet for them to not have consummated the marriage yet. Um, when the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, arise, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand. So he's being disobedient. The angels have given him a directive from the Lord, and he's still hanging around. So while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his daughters, two daughters, the Lord being merciful to him. And they brought him out and set him outside the city. And so the Lord, And I believe it's because Lot was a relative of Abraham, that the Lord was so merciful towards him, that the angels didn't leave him there. And it was only two angels, right? So the angels only had four hands. So it was only a hand for each one of them. The two daughters, the son-in-laws were still stuck in the city. They didn't leave. They didn't take them. But the daughter, the mother, I mean the wife and Abraham, it was two angels, four hands, four people. That's all they had, which meant that the Lord knew that it was only going to be four people to possibly come out, which we find out in a few minutes that his wife didn't even come out. Um, and while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his two daughters, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him up outside the city, set him outside the city. So it came to pass when they had brought them outside that he said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed." So the angels told, like, get on away from here, go to the mountains so you won't be burnt up. Then Lot says to them, "Please, no, my lords. Indeed, now your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have increased your mercy, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die." So he's pleading with them, "Please don't send me to the mountains. I don't want to go there. See now, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Please let me escape there. It is not a little one. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live?" And he said to him, "See, I have favored you concerning this thing also, and that I will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you have arrived there. Until you arrive there." So the angel and Lot are having this conversation, and Lot is like, "Well, can I just go over here? It's a small city. Um, I prefer to go over here." And so the angel's like, "Yeah, you can go over there. We won't burn this city down. Go on over there because I can't do nothing until you're out of sight." Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun had risen up on the earth when Lot entered Zoar. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities, all the plain, all the inhabitants of the city, and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back behind him. Remember, they told them, "Don't look back." And she became a pillar of salt. Sometimes, you can't be looking back on your past, it'll throw you off. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Then he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and he saw and beheld the smoke of the land, which went up like the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass when God destroyed the cities in the plain that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. So, because of the Lord's um, friendship with Abraham, he made sure that Lot was not caught up in this massacre. Then Lot went out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains. So remember, Lot begged the angels to not send him to the mountains and let him go to Zoar. But then we see here in verse 30 that he ended up in the mountains anyway, him and his two daughters, for he was afraid to dwell in Zoar. And he and his two daughters dwelt in a cave. Now the firstborn said to the younger one, "Our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come into us, as is the custom of the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." So these little daughters have come up with a plan, still, trying to take matters into their own hands. And they decided they're going to get their father drunk. Now, where they get this wine from, I don't know. Because, when they fled from Lot, it didn't say that they had anything with them. So maybe they got it from Zoar, but they had this wine and the daddy was drinking. I don't know how the daddy, uh, whether he was drinking with the daughters and they were pretending. I don't know how this could have happened, but anyway, he got drunk and slept with his oldest daughter. And then he and the two daughters, okay, Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. So not only did he do this the first night, but he did this the second night. So how you allow this to happen 2 nights in a row? Thus, it happened on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, "Indeed, I lay with my father last night." And then these girls, like people in here, get pregnant. Well, Hagar got pregnant the first time. This the first daughter got pregnant the first time, and the second daughter got pregnant the first time. "Indeed, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight also, and you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." Then they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. So how old were these girls? And how long from the time that the Lord burnt down Sodom and Gomorrah did this happen? Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the people of the Ammon to this day. So now we're finna get into chapter 20, and it's entitled, because I'm reading from the King James Version tonight. "And Abraham journeyed from there to the south, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in Gerar. Now Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister." So he's finna tell the same lie that he told the people, the Pharaoh of Egypt. He's telling Abimelech, the king of Gerar, that she is his sister, which is partially true. But what he's not saying is that she is also his wife. And he did that to spare himself. No concern for the wife. It's just a lot of misplaced, um, what's the word? Priorities. Um, Now Abraham said of Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "Indeed, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife." But Abimelech had not come near her, so he hadn't had sex with her. And he said, "Lord, will you slay a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, She is my sister? And even she herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands, I have done this." So he pleading, the king of Gerar, Abimelech, is pleading with God, saying, "Lord, I did not do this intentionally, like from the sincerity of my heart. I took this woman. I did it with integrity, even though he already got wives. So how integral was that?" But he's saying that if I had known that this woman was his wife, I would not have pursued her. And God said to him in a dream, "Yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me." So the Lord is like, "Yeah, I know you did it with the sincerity of your heart. I know that you didn't set out to do this on purpose. And so that's why I didn't let you sleep with her, because you would have been sinning against me. I got a plan for her, basically. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now, therefore, restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you will surely die, you and all who are yours." So Abimelech rose early in the morning, called all his servants, and told all these things in their hearing. And the men were very much afraid. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? How have I offended you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds to me that ought not to be done." Then Abimelech said to Abraham, "What did you have in view that you have done this thing?" So Abimelech is like, what have I done to you for you to do this to me? Now, one thing to note here is that Abimelech is serve pagan gods. So he don't really necessarily believe in God, the Father. And Abraham said, because I thought surely the fear of God is not in this place, and surely you would kill me as an account of on account of my wife. So Abimelech goes through this list of excuses. First one, he says, well, I mean, I ain't feel like I believe in God. The presence of the Lord ain't here. God is not in this place. And two, um, because I figured that she was gonna kill me because of my wife. Now, Sarah is very much pushing 90 years old, right? So, not to say that she wasn't beautiful, but what reason would he feel like he still needs to lie about this because somebody's gonna take his wife from him? Um, but indeed, she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. So they are half siblings. And she became my wife. And it came to pass when God caused me to wander from my father's house that I said to her, this is your kindness that you should do for me. In every place, wherever we go, say of me, he is my brother. And so the third excuse is he's trying to say that God sent him out away from his family's house and did not provide protection for him, which is not true. And so he made Sarah promised that if you love me, then everywhere we go, you gonna tell everybody that I'm your brother and not your husband. Then Abimelech took sheep, oxen, and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham, and he restored Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, see, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you. Then to Sarah he said, behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Indeed, this vindicates you before all who are with you and before everybody. Thus she was rebuked. So Abraham prayed to God, like God told Abimelech that he would do, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants. Then they bore children, for the Lord had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah. So they, because he took Sarah, even though he didn't touch her, um, some type of sickness was placed on him and everybody in his house, and the wombs of the women were closed up until Abraham prayed for him, and then the Lord released all of that. So, and we're gonna get to chapter 21. Chapter 21. And the Lord visited Sarah, and he said, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. So, because the Lord keeps his promises. Even though it may not look like it, the Lord keeps his promises. Our time is not on his time. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the set time of which God had spoken to him. So remember, the Lord said that right before he burned down Sodom and Gomorrah, that he was going to come back at the appointed time, and Sarah was going to bear a child. So this we can assume was 9 months later. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, which is very important, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, which was, a sign of keeping the covenant with God, as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear will laugh with me. She also said, who would have said to Abraham and Sarah that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. So the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she bore to Abraham, scoffing him. So now we see that, Sarah had the baby like the Lord promised. She weans the baby the same day she weans the baby. Abraham throws this big party, and then Sarah ends up seeing Hagar's son Ishmael, which is Abraham's first child, um, making fun of Isaac. Therefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely with Isaac. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. So he didn't want the woman to go with the child because that was his first child, right? That was his child. But God said to Abraham, do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice. For in Isaac your seed shall be called. So the Lord is telling him, do what your wife say. Send her on. Because the Lord is going to take care of him. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. So the Lord is making him, giving him his word that because Ishmael is also your son, I'm going to take care of him. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on the shoulder, he gave it and the boy to Hagar, and sent her away. So remember that Abraham was very wealthy, and all he gave her was a wineskin full of water and a piece of bread. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. So this is um she's in Beersheba, and she all she has is the water in the skin, in the wine skin. So it says, in the water in the wineskin, in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat down across from him at a distance of about a bow shot, for she said to herself, let me not see the death of the boy, because they ain't have no water nor food. So she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept, and God heard the voice of the lad. Then the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, what ails you, Hagar? And this is verse 17. Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad, not your voice, but the voice of Ishmael. Where is he? Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in your hand, for I will make him a great nation. Now, if he was like 13 or 14, how is she going to hold him with her hand? Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the lad a drink. So God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at the time that Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, not the same Abimelech, but another Abimelech, because this is years later, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me by God that you will not deal falsely with me, with my offspring, or with my posterity, but that according to the kindness that I have done to you, you will do to me in the land, do to me and to the land in which you have dwelt. And Abraham said, I will swear. Then Abraham rebuked Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had seized. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing. You did not tell me, nor had I heard of it until this day. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave it to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Then Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these seven ewe lambs which you have set by themselves? And he said, you will take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, that they may be my witness that I have dug this well. Therefore he called that place Beersheba, which is the same place that um, Hagar and Ishmael were when she thought they was finna die there of dehydration. Because the two of them swore an oath there. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. So Abimelech rose with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned to the land of Philistine. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there called on the name of the Lord, capital Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham stayed in the land of Philistines many days. So that was 16 through 21. We saw a lot of the Lord in here, keeping his promises, even though the timing was not the same as Sarah's and Abraham's timing, the promise did come to play. And one of the biggest lessons that we can learn from this story is that the Lord don't need our help when He promises us something. We just have to sit and wait, because when we decide to work on our own and get stuff done, we mess it up. I'll see y'all tomorrow.